What's up, crew? Welcome back to Libertalia Game Supply. Today we are going to take a look at like 5 combos for Fire King Dogmatika. To be fair, it's essentially one combo. The deck does one combo. It only does one combo every single time, but we have a few different entries into it and a few different ways you can kind of tweak it. And if you're creative enough and better than me, you can probably expand this into even more stuff. So let's get right into it here. Alright, so for number 1 here, this is essentially what every combo is based around. You just need the Ponix to set up the board wipe on your opponent's turn. So the one Ponix to start, you've probably seen this in any other combo video regarding Fire Kings up to this point. So we'll get through it fast. Ponix normal summon effect. Activate the effect to grab the Sanctuary. We're then going to activate the Sanctuary to get the island on the field. So we'll do that. Island's on the field. We'll use the island. We're going to pop the Ponix in order to grab the Garunix. The Garunix will activate because it was added to the hand in the chain where a card got popped, so we'll special summon that. The Garunix will end up on the board. When Garunix is summoned, it gets an effect to pop one from your deck. Now we're going to pop the Barong because we need the Barong search in our opponent's standby phase, and that's the end of combo 1 essentially. So if we pass turn during the next player's standby phase, we get 2 effects and they activate on separate chains. Number 1, or I guess either one could be number 1, but Ponix will go back to hand, and then Barong will activate its effect to search, and that'll give us our Kirin to hand from the deck. So what this sets you up for and allows you to do is we'll pass it back to ourselves just so I can demonstrate here. Kirin will then be able to pop the Ponix in hand to summon itself, and you now have 2 level 8s on board. This means that the Sanctuary is live, so if your opponent were to special summon a monster, you can overlay both of these for the Eternity. We'll pull that up real quick right here in order to do the board wipe, and then when the turn comes back to you, you draw whatever you draw. The Ponix will go back to your hand, and we'll throw the Eternity on here just to demonstrate what we're talking about. So the Eternity would have board wiped on your opponent's previous turn. You have a Ponix plus, we'll call that a blank card. So now here you can OTK. The Fire King Island can pop the Eternity. The Eternity can summon 2 monsters out of the graveyard when it gets popped because it had 2 materials, and we also get a search. Now the deck is on shuffle, so the Garunix is already in our hand, so we'll just grab the Arvata, but the Garunix in our hand would be able to resolve. Otherwise, you'd be able to search the Garunix and resolve the Garunix in that way instead. So we'll use the Eternity, we'll use the Garunix, and I guess you could use the Ponix to get an additional search if you wanted. The Eternity will summon 2. We'll just summon itself and another Garunix. You have 2 effects off of the 2 Garunixes. It's once per turn, and what you pop is kind of up to you at this point. You already got over 8k on board. We'll pop an Arvata. Arvata would let us special summon again. We'll summon our Kirin out of the graveyard. You could use the Ponix again right there if you wanted a different Fire King spell in your hand. But right here, we've got 3, 66, 93, and 11,700 damage on the board. So if you were to time this board wipe correctly, you got yourself a little OTK there. All right, for the second combo here, I'm just going to demonstrate how the Nadir Servant essentially is an additional copy of Ponix in the deck. So you're pretty much doing the same combo, and the Nadir Servant is what gets you there. So we'll activate that Nadir Servant. We're going to send something to the graveyard. What you send is fairly specific because you need a Beast Warrior or Tri-type monster of some sort, Wing Beast, Beast Warrior, in the Banish Zone in order to get the Shuraig search for the Ponix. You got to either send the Bucephalus, which would let you send another card, or send the Garura, which would let you have a draw. So we'll send the Garura for now, grab our Maximus, and then you get that Garura draw. We'll take it. It doesn't matter here, but obviously a draw is a draw. That's always nice. We're going to use our Maximus. We're going to banish our Garura, and we're going to special summon our Maximus right now. So now Maximus on the board will allow us to send 2 more. You have a couple options on what to send. So one of them will have to be the Shuraig, so we'll hit that first, and then the other one you send is up to you. So essentially what you're looking at here is this will allow you to send an additional card from the extra deck to the graveyard. This is what's going to search your Ponix, or if you already have the Ponix, your DD Crow. This is going to search a Sauravis, which will protect something from being targeted. This will pop something, so if you're going second, you want to get a little removal there, that's good to go. And this will end up searching the Fleurdelis in the end phase, so then you have a negate hand trap type deal with a big body on the board whenever you ended up needing it. For this instance, we'll go with the Herald just because it's easy. For what they're sending, it doesn't matter. We're going to resolve our effects. So we have our search for Ponix. Let's resolve that Chain Link 1, and we'll resolve the Sauravis Chain Link 2 because the Ponix is easily the more important part of this whole deal. So we'll grab our Sauravis and we'll grab our Ponix, and now we're loaded up. So you pretty much have the exact same combo. You're going to go with Ponix, normal summon, activate its effect on normal summon, which will allow you to get that search. We're going to grab the Fire King Island to the hand. Once we got that in the hand, we're going to activate the Fire King Island in the hand. Fire King Island on the field is going to activate. We're going to put the Fire King Island island. Have I been saying island? Sanctuary. Island will go to the field spell zone. We're then going to use it. We're going to pop our Ponix. Or I guess you could pop something else, but we're going to pop the Ponix because we want it back in the hand for later. We'll grab the Garunix. Garunix will activate in hand because of the Ponix getting popped. We're then going to special summon that. We're going to pop the Barong because we need to get that search for Kirin. Barong is popped. And then you end phase. Then on our opponent's turn, we've got the Ponix will go back to hand, and we've got the Barong, which will search for our Kirin once again. And so essentially it's the same board. You'll be able to make the Eternity, Kirin, pop the Ponix, special summon the Kirin, overlay for the Eternity. Whenever they special summon a monster, and then you have that board wipe, the Maximus going to the graveyard doesn't really matter to you. It was just there to get you to the Ponix, essentially. If you were to send the Titaniclad and get the Fleurdelis, you'd have an effect negate there. I guess it depends on what you want. And you would have the same OTK if you were able to time that board wipe properly enough to wipe the board and get the turn passed back to you with nothing really on there. So we'll just go ahead and move on here to number 3. So for number 3 here, we're just going to talk about how you get around drawing the Maximus. So if you were to open the Nadir Servant but also open the Maximus, which is very slim chances but probably will happen from time to time, that combo line is now dead. So you essentially have 2 dead cards in your hand, but there's something you can do. So number 1 that you can do is main deck a Ecclesia, which would mean you still have a search target that you can send Garura for. It also means that you would have a normal summon that could search the Nadir Servant to continue the combo as normal. You would just have to have a way to get to the Sanctuary or the Fire King Island without the Ponix. Or what I think is probably better is to play the Bucephalus in the extra deck because its attack is over the attack of Fleurdelis, which means you would still be able to activate your Nadir Servant, send your Bucephalus, which would then allow you to send an additional Tri-type monster after the search, and we can send, the only 2 I'm playing are Shuraig and Garura, and obviously we need a banish card for that Shuraig to be worthwhile, so we'll send the Garura. Garura will get its draw, ignore that, it's blank, and then you're able to continue this combo as normal. So you banish your Garura, you're going to special summon your Maximus, you'll be able to send 2 off your Maximus. We'll do the same too. Obviously the Titaniclad is now dead if the Fleurdelis is in hand, so 1 and 2. You get your 2 same searches that you just had. Remember the 2 that we send here, I'm not worried about. It's up to them anyway, so who cares? Remember Chainlink 1, we want the Ponix. Chainlink 2, we want the Sauravis because we got to protect that Ponix search. Sauravis to hand, Ponix to hand, and you would just continue the combo we've been doing for the last couple of combos. Ponix, normal summon, activate, grab the Sanctuary. Sanctuary is going to activate. We're going to grab the Fire King Island. Fire King Island is going to activate. We're going to pop the Ponix. Ignore the Garunix in hand. Remember, we're going to search the Garunix. We can't just count on drawing it, but if you do, fuck yeah, just go nuts from that point, I guess. Garunix will get that effect on summon to pop one. We're going to pop that Barong because you need that search. You're going to end phase, standby phase. You're going to get both effects separately. We've talked about it 3 times at this point. Ponix will go to hand. Barong is going to give us our Kirin, and you have the exact same board. We have the Kirin, pop the Ponix, special summon itself, make the Eternity. Below the board, you also have this effect negate and this protection here, so a little bit better. Obviously, you open more specific cards, it's going to be better. Speaking of which, we'll move on to number 4. Now, this is probably one of the best pairs of cards you'll see in this deck. The only thing better would be if you opened an additional Sanctuary or Skyburn, because then you really just get crazy with it, because essentially that would mean all of your searches are free and open to like search whatever you want. This is just half of it is free and open, so you still have to search the Sanctuary, but if you had all 3, we'll go over that next. So we'll activate the Servant. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing. Send the Garura, get the draw, get the Maximus, so on and so on. We got the blank card, we got our Maximus. We'll banish the 1, we'll summon the Maximus. The Maximus's effect is going to activate, so now you don't have to search the Ponix, which means you can get nuts with it. So we'll send the same 2, Shuraig and Arclight. Arclight's just a pretty good send, I guess, is what my opinion has been up to this point. And we'll get both searches. So now it doesn't matter chain link wise if there's one you want more than the other, but the Shuraig will search a DD Crow and the Arclight will search the Sauravis. So we'll activate both, and the chain link's kind of up to you depending on which one you feel you need to protect to make sure you have in your hand. So we got our Crow and we're grabbing our Sauravis, and then the combo continues as normal from there. You normal summon the Ponix. Do I really need to say it all again? Let's just cut right to the chase here. And so there you are, essentially the same end board with the board wipe and the follow-up OTK if you're able to stop the board at the right time. The only difference here is you were able to search both of these one-of hand traps, and they're at one-of just because of this. You can search them pretty specifically. So you have the Sauravis, which can protect your stuff from being targeted. So say you make the Eternity to board wipe and they try to like Veiler you or your whatever, Veiler targets, you'd be able to dump the Sauravis, negate that, blow the board up anyway. The DD Crow, banish 1 from the opponent's graveyard. Just good in general. It can be played against decks that it's not quite as good in, but for the most part, a lot of decks interact with their graveyard, or they'll target stuff in the graveyard, and you can just take those targets away. So good little search there. We'll move on to a different variation of opening the Ponix with something busted. So we're gonna assume now for number 5, you open the Sanctuary and the Ponix. You no longer need the search for the Sanctuary with the Ponix. We'll, whichever you do first, I guess, doesn't really matter. We'll activate the Sanctuary, we'll search the Fire King Island. We're still going to use this normal summon, though you wouldn't need it necessarily in that point. You could just pop this to search. Depending on what's in your hand, if you had a different normal summon you wanted, perhaps that's worthwhile. But we're going to instead get a search. So I'm playing the Circle because I like it. I'm also playing the Skyburn because it just seems like a really good card to me. I don't know. So now you've set yourself up to do essentially your turn 2 play during your opponent's turn, kind of. So you would continue this as normal. Fire King Island is going to pop the Ponix. We're going to grab the Garunix. Garunix is going to summon itself. It's going to do all the stuff that it does every single time. You guys know what's going on at this point. And so we got our graveyard set up. We can set the Skyburn. We can end phase. And then during standby phase, we get to set up the same board we've been setting up every single time. Ponix back to hand, Barong search of the Kirin, and you've got your board wipe set up. So now in this instance, I suppose we will have to play the opponent's hand a little bit here just to show you the benefit of this. So let's say they are normal summoning their Ponix because that's what they do. They activate their effect. We then have the Kirin to pop our own Ponix. We're going to pop that Ponix, put him on the board. This guy is going to give us a search. They're going to go for the same combo because I gave him the same opening hand, obviously. We're going to activate their Sanctuary. They're going to get the search for the Fire King Island. So now I suppose with the Skyburn, you could just kill your own 2 monsters. You would get the effect of the Kirin when it gets popped, which is going to be less good than waiting for the Eternity, and you could take out their island and their Sanctuary, and then the island would just kill the Ponix anyway, so it wipes the whole board, or, you know, whatever deck you're playing against. Or we could just let them play for a little bit here and try to get a little bit wild with what we do with the Skyburn. So we're going to let this effect resolve. They're going to pop the Ponix. They're going to search their own Garunix. Their own Garunix is going to summon itself, and this can be what can trigger our own Eternity. So on this special summon, it'll get its effect. We will have our Sanctuary effect resolve, and we're going to make our Eternity. Eternity will summon and wipe the board here. Just as soon as they get their pop and search, let's not think too much about what they're doing in the mirror match here. We're going to get our board wipe. The board has now been wiped thoroughly, and at this point you would have the Skyburn available to go nuts. And so what I was saying earlier was normally you would wait for your own turn to use your Fire King Island on your Eternity to pop it and then summon your 2 back and then put your 8k on board. With the Skyburn, depending on what they try to follow up with after you board wipe, you can Skyburn your own Eternity and whatever card, we'll just pick one, it doesn't matter. And then your Eternity will resolve on their turn, so they wouldn't be able to like set back row or something in order to interrupt that. We're gonna get our Eternity effect to summon 2, 1, 2, Garunix Eternity. Now the Garunix on it, this special summon would get its effect again, so you could pop something, maybe the Arvata to get the Kirin back if it's your own turn. Otherwise it would just get destroyed as soon as the turn gets passed back to you anyway. We could pop the Kirin to summon the Ponix out of the graveyard and then pop this other card they got or whatever other card they got. So we'll do that. We'll destroy 1 card on the field, and then the Ponix will get a search. What you search, so I play the Circle for this particular reason, but you could just search another copy of Skyburn if you play 2 or whatever. So when the turn gets passed back to you, we'll ignore this. It's a blank card. I guess we have to resolve these, but it doesn't really matter. We're not, you know, we're playing for us. We're not playing for them. But now what the Circle does, it allows you to get a summon out of your graveyard, which would be probably the Kirin. You also have the ability to just search another Garunix. We already drew the 1, but we didn't really draw the 1, right? It was an unshuffled deck. So you could pop the Ponix, search your other Garunix if you did not happen to draw it every single time, and you have over 8k on board right there. You could use your Circle to special summon back your Kirin by popping your Ponix and getting the 1 that's in your graveyard, and it's still 8k on board right there. So essentially you're just setting up a board wipe into an OTK every single time. And then just for funsies here at the end, let's assume we open all 3 of our like main starter 3 of cards here. You could do it in whatever order you see fit. We'll do the main Nadir Servant play here, send the Garura, search the Maximus, get our draw because obviously we need as much card advantage as possible invisible. Activate our Maximus, banish our Garura, put him on the board. Activate our Maximus on the board, send our 2. We have our Ponix in hand, so we're still going to send our Arclight, and we sent Bucephalus this time just for funsies, and we'll also send the Shuraig because we can. Send their 2, doesn't matter. We'll activate our 2 effects, so we're going to get our Sauravis search first. We're going to get our Bucephalus dump of Shuraig second. We'll get our Sauravis in our hand. Our Shuraig is going to activate. We're going to search. We're going to grab our DD Crow, and then we can get into the next half of the combo here. Sanctuary is going to activate. We're going to put our Fire King Island on the field. We're then going to normal summon our Ponix to get our search. Remember, you don't need the Sanctuary anymore, so you could search either one of these, or if you wanted to play another Fire King spell that I chose not to play, you could do that as well. We'll grab the Skyburn because it's just really good. Fire King Island is going to activate. We're going to go ahead and pop our own Ponix. We're going to summon our Garunix from our hand after we search it. On the board, we're going to get that same pop. So now you could pop the Arvata to put the Ponix back if you wanted to, if you want to get fancy. Our Garunix on the board is going to get its effect. We'll pop our Barong once again because that's what we do. And essentially now you're ending on the same board, but you have some additional little interrupts here. We've got the Skyburn to start blowing stuff up on their side of the field. We've got the DD Crow to start taking away some of their targets for whatever effects they're activating. And we've got the Sauravis to protect ourselves from targeting. And remember, if we're able to wait to use that Skyburn until after we've made the Eternity, because in our next standby phase here, we're going to go ahead and grab our Ponix back. And so now essentially what you've done here with your little 3-card God Hand is 4 cards on the board and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards in hand, plus whatever the other 2 cards were that you drew in your opening hand. We've got the Kirin, which was searched off of the Barong to be able to set up our Eternity board wipe again. We've got the Ponix because we need to pop it for the Kirin summon. We've got the DD Crow to take away some targets in the graveyard. We've got the Sauravis to protect our board from targeting. We've got a blank card that we drew, and we've got the Skyburn to either wipe the board of a few cards if you want to leave the Kirin on board to wipe a couple cards at once, or to pop your own Eternity to pop 1 card and then get the Eternity special summons and set yourself up for the OTK on your following turn without needing the Fire King Island. You could then use that for some other, additional Garunix or whatever the case may be. And that's that. If you got any additional combos or super spicy techs, leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to hear about it. I'm going to be playing this at locals for the next few weeks here to see how that deck works out for me. In the meantime, happy deck building. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Goodbye.